Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Meadsyreplays and welcome back to the channel. Update 6.9, and we had the heavy HP buff. What does that mean for the game? Of course, with the heavy buffs, that will mean a change of meta. We've been seeing a lot of medium, light tank, TD meta. Wargaming wants to change the meta every so often. I mean, not every sort of month or every couple of months, maybe like every year or every 6 months. They want to keep changing the meta. So the heavy meta hasn't, I think, in my personal opinion, hasn't really been in the game for a while. Of course, you have the heavies like the IS-4, maybe the WZ-113 that when that got introduced, but we haven't had a mouse meta or E100 meta for a long time. So Wargaming buffed every heavy's hit points. And what does that mean? I mean, this game here, we end up on 500 hit points. Now, the mouse used to have 2,500 hit points. It now has 3,000. So that's 500 difference. If you run it now with calibrated shells, if you run it now with the extra armor, you're running at just over 3,100 hit points. That's over 600 hit points more than it used to be originally. If you only run it with the extra pen, I think it is, or the extra armor. Sorry, that's a big difference. That's a big difference for tanks like a mouse. And that game I just had a minute ago, that was the difference between staying alive and dying. Now, this game, he's not running it. Jaegerman Jensen, I think his name is. He's not running the HP buff. So he's got 3,000. So he's got an extra 500 hit points. And ultimately, that's almost going to come down to the difference between winning and losing. So personally, I love this buff. I love the HP buff for the heavies. It's going to bring something different to the game, and we're going to have one more battle after this in the mouse, and it will, because of the HP buff, you are able to play tanks like the mouse how they should be played. Now, the mouse has got crap penetration, crap speed. It's just a big box of metal that is heavily armored when angled correctly, and you have to take note of that. It's only good armor when you are angled correctly. I mean, if you're going to face hug this IS-7 looking directly at him, you've got weak cheeks, and it's going to be very easy for that IS-7 to be able to penetrate you. You have to angle your turret. Now, you've got the turret cheeks that are very weak. If you angle your turret cheeks, they become very strong. And you are able now to play the mouse like it should be played. The mouse is more of a bait tank. You've seen it in competitions. You've seen it in, not competitions, you've seen it in training rooms, tournaments, how these pro clans play the mouse. And they don't play the mouse because it's a fantastic tank. They play it because of the hit points, because of the armor, and they literally just steamroll into the enemy or into the front line, and they take the attention of the team, so the rest of the team can start shooting them. And you're able to do that now in normal, like this mode, the normal mode, other than tournaments. You just steamroll into the enemy, play front line. I mean, you're a mouse, you have to play front line, and you now have those hit points. I mean, look at that Leopard 1, not even 2,000 hit points. You have over 1,000 hit points more than that Leopard 1. That is crazy. Also, it's not. I said this when we tested it. We had Wargaming allowed us testers into a test server to pretty much like an open test to test these heavy buffs. And I thought, honestly, it doesn't change too much. I don't think it's going to make tanks like the mouse OP. It's going to make it more durable. It's it's going to be able to last a bit longer in battle. But not only is it good for heavies, it's also good for medium tanks because there's more damage. I mean, if you come across a 30% player in a mouse, you're getting an extra 500-600 hit point damage from that guy. So it's not just good for those heavy tanks with the buffs. It's also good for the other tanks around it because there's more damage to be done. There's more damage to be done. People love damage. Like, who doesn't love damage? Everyone loves damage. So you are going to come across the good players in tanks like the mouse that will make it work. I mean, this player here, he's bounced 2,800 damage so far. He's going to bounce a little bit more. But at the moment, he's on 800 hit points. If he wouldn't have had that, the armor buff, he would be on 300 hit points. And that, again, that's the difference between dying and staying alive. Because if he had 300 hit points, this Death Star, even though he's just bounced, he could have just shot HE. And if he had 300 hit points, that would have cleared him easily. Where 800 hit points, he needs a full AP roll to be able to clear him. So that's the difference between not only staying alive and dying, but most likely winning and losing for this game, especially if he would have had 300 hit points and died from the Death Star, then the E100 might have not been able to clear both tanks. So he done a pretty good job there. Finishes on 5k damage, first class, steel wall, makes some credits, high caliber, etc. So personally, I love the buff. A lot of you are going to disagree. A lot of you probably won't like the buffs. You might not be heavy players. You might just be medium or light tank players. And fair enough, you're not going to like it. But wargaming has to change the meta. Otherwise, the game will just get boring. If it's just played the same tanks over and over again, the tanks that are in meta, the 121s, the IS-4s, the Jaegeroos, and not much heavies in the game. I mean, since the light tanks have come into the game, the missile tanks, it kind of made heavies and their armors, I mean, useless. What's the point of having so much armor on a mouse if a missile tank is just easily be able to shoot you in the face? It's no point. At least now you have the extra hit points, 500 extra hit points on a mouse. I mean, there are some tanks, it's not just all heavies that have got 5. I mean, it's only the mouse that has received the most. The E100 has received 450. You have the IS-4 that's gone an extra sort of 300-400. I mean, I don't think the IS-4 so much needed so much. And then you have tanks like the FE215B that's only got 100 extra. So it varies between the heavies, how well they play in game and how well they needed the armor buff. And I mean, the mouse, let's be fair, needed the armor buff. It was one of the worst tanks in the game. Not going to lie, it was literally a tank made just to sit front line. And we're going to see this game here. People are raging at this mouse that he was a noob because he literally drove straight into the enemy. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of the time pay off. A lot of the times it won't pay off and you will get absolutely wrecked. But what he essentially done is took the attention of these heavies in the middle, and these mediums now are able to get around, they're able to get close, and they are able to do some damage. So he's playing the mouse just like the mouse should be played. It should be up in their faces. This is how the mouse has always been made, and it should be how it's always played. And just having that extra hit point, you are able to do that with some confidence that you're going to stay alive longer. I mean, you shouldn't be really. People do big damage in a mouse. I've seen it. I've had replays, but the mouse is not really made. It's not really there to do big damage. It's there to take the shots. You should be bouncing shots in a mouse. If you're not bouncing shots in a mouse, you're doing it wrong. Even if you're a 30% player in a mouse, you will bounce shots. No matter how you play the tank, you will bounce shots. However, you play it correctly, you will bounce double or even triple as much shots than that 30% player. And as I've said with the cheeks of this tank, the cheeks are quite weak and they are easily pennable. But if you start, I mean, you're going to see it in a minute. This Jaff, he's going to have a fantastic game. And he's already bounced 4k damage and he's already got 4.3k damage. Now, watch his angles against this tortoise. This is how you should be angling a mouse. Not directly in front of the gun. I mean, at this angle. At that angle, you will bounce a lot of shots. And I don't just mean face hugging. These are the kind of angles you need whenever you are reloading. Whenever you haven't got a shot, whenever a tank is looking at you, even if it's from distance, those are the angles that you need to take. And you will see yourself bouncing so many more shots than you usually do in a mouse. But well played, Jaff. 4,690 block damage, and he ends up on 5,500 damage. Again, he gets the steel wall Kolobinov and a well-deserved ace. So that is the mouse, that is the heavy buff, and that is the change of meta. Hopefully, we will start seeing more E100s do well, more mouses do well, and generally more heavies doing well. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. I'm Meadsy, and I'll catch you soon.